Franco, from superband to having their own identity. Franco started as a supergroup back in 2008. They immediately dominated the airwaves when they released their singles Castaway
On my own, castaway, try
and Song for the Suspect.
Rastafari.
as much as we can.
Their self-titled album in 2010 topped the charts and won a lot of awards from NU Rock Awards and Mix Awards. The supergroup eventually broke up in 2012, leaving their frontman and vocalist as the only remaining original member. What made Franco so great? Why did the original lineup broke up? How Franco stayed relevant? These are the questions that we will try to answer in this video. Hello YouTube! Welcome to geekylabsph. Sa channel na to, we will talk about OPM alternative scene and pop culture in general. Franco Reyes has been active in the Cebu music scene in the mid to late 90s with his band Frank. Let's address Franco Reyes as Islao, which is his nickname to avoid confusion with the band name. Early 2000s nung lumipad si Islao papuntang US para mag-migrate. Doon nga siya nag-aral at nagtrabaho while he continued to make his own music. And eventually, he made his own demo with his own band called Inyo. They continued to play his original song that he originally wrote for his band back in Cebu. Fast forward to 2008 sa Pilipinas, naging magkakapitbahay sina Ocho Toleran ng Quezon, Janjan Mendoza ng Urban Dub at Buwi Meneses ng parokya ni Edgar sa Quezon City. They started to hang out and mag-jam just for fun until sumali na nga sa kanila si Gab Alipe ng Urban Dub sa kanilang pagja-jam. Nag-i-insist si Gab na siya na lang din yung kakanta pero napansin nila na tunog Urban Dub pa rin. That's why they refused to have him as their main vocalist. Hindi nila masyadong sineseryoso at ginagawa lang nilang katuwaan at pampalipas oras yung pagja-jam nila until in-inform ni Ocho Toleran ang talent manager na si Richard Tan about this group. At dito na nga nila napagpasyahan na seryosohin yung ginagawa nila at maghanap ng magiging lead vocalist nila. Dito na nga naisipan ni Gab na i-recommend si Islao sa kanyang mga band members. This is because of their Cebu connection back in the days. Nagustuhan ng iba pang mga members yung demo ng banda ni Islao because it has a very unique sound at most importantly, ready na yung mga kanta at ilalabas na lang nila. Napagkasundoan nila na kontakin si Islao para gawing vocalist ng banda nila. Kaya lang, there is one big problem. Nakasettle na si Islao sa United States and feeling na there is no reason for him to come back. And aside from that, Islao didn't have the financial capability to go back to the Philippines. Janjan Mendoza was able to convince Islao to go back to the Philippines to try it out, and Ocho was able to convince the talent manager Richard Tan para mag-provide nga ng pamasahe ni Islao to go back to the Philippines. Nung dumating sa bansa si Islao, nag-practice lang sila ng 4 na araw and then they started gigging. They've been playing Islao's original songs. They started to get a lot of attention because unang-una nga dahil supergroup sila at pangalawa, hindi pa kilala si Islao sa mainstream audience. Everyone was curious kung sino ba yung kasama nila and where did that music came from. Nung time na yon, wala pa silang permanenteng pangalan. They've been thinking a lot of names and ang sabi nga ni Ocho, every gig daw ay iba-ibang pangalan yung binibigay nila sa mga organizers. They first thought about the name Armalite, pero Islao refused to use that name because for him, it's a little bit violent. And then Janjan suggested the name Franco. At dito nga nakibuyo si Gab at sabi niya, sige, Franco na lang, parang bamboo. Nung una, hesitant pa si Islao because to him, it's a little bit narcissistic, but everyone in the band agreed because unang-una, Franco brought the music to them, and since supergroup nga sila, they don't want this to be all about them. They want this to be about Islao and Islao's music. After the 2-week stretch of their gigs, Islao decided to go back to the US para ayusin pa yung mga naiwan niya doon, and aside from that, para mag-isip ng mabuti kung itutuloy niya na ba yung pagbalik sa Philippines for good. They eventually eventually convinced Islao to go back to the Philippines for good, and while Islao is still in the US, the band decided to release their singles Castaway and This Gathering, and these singles started to gain momentum on the airwaves. They've been topping the charts and making a lot of noise in the OPM alternative scene. People had no idea that time na yung mga nagpe-play pala na song sa airwaves ay galing pa sa demo ng bandang Inyo at hindi pa yon yung version ng Franco, because at the time, hindi pa nila nare-record yung version ng Franco. And with that, what made the band so great? Bakit nga ba sobrang putok na putok yung Franco paglabas pa lang nila nitong mga singles na to? In my opinion, there are two reasons for Franco's immediate rise to stardom. Una, because of the original lineup. Franco was a supergroup. Each member of the band was already a household name at the time. Ocho was with Queso, which some of you might not know is one of the biggest metal bands in the country. Gab and Janjan are from Urban Dub, who also came from Cebu. And of course, Bowie is from one of the biggest pop rock band in the country, Parokya ni Edgar. These musicians are already established and well respected in their own rights. So when the news came out that they have a band together, everyone got so excited. Sino nga naman ba ang hindi may excite na nagsama-sama to mga to? Unang-una, they came from different genres. And pangalawa, yung mga bandang pinanggalingan nila ay mga established na sa OPM alternative scene. Pangalawa, because of Islao's musical genius. As I said earlier, the self-titled album contains almost every song that he wrote. He played these songs while with Frank and while with his band in the United States. He was way ahead of his time. I mean, sino mag-aakala na magiging okay ang tunog ng post-grunge at reggae? He's been doing this ever since he started his music career back in Cebu. He's been playing these songs while he was with Frank and while he's in the United States with his band Inyo. But before the release of these songs in the radio, wala pa akong naririnig na ganong klaseng tunog. I mean, post-grunge sounds guitar-heavy and very dark, at ang reggae naman on the other hand sounds bright and upbeat. So sinong mag-iisip na pagsamahin yun? It's the polar opposite. But for Islao to be able to do it and actually pull it off, that's effing genius. So when you combine the popularity of Ocho, Gab, Janjan, and Bowie with Islao's musical brilliance, it's a match made in heaven. We all know that when talented musicians from famous bands group together, most of the time, it doesn't work. But Franco is the only exception to that. And that is because of Islao's music. So you might be wondering if it's a match made in heaven because of Islao's musical genius and the popularity of the other four members. Why did they break up? The band continued to get bigger. However, due to the other four members having their own bands at the same time, Franco's popularity started to cause a strain within the band's relationship. As Ocho mentioned in one of his interviews, he was always being told to smile and be nice to everyone, like a normal celebrity would. But that lifestyle is not for him. He is and will always be a musician first. According to Gab, it's like having 5 alpha dogs in a single cage. Bowie also said in one of his interviews that they got so exhausted and almost end up in a fist fight if they only weren't friends at kung hindi nga lang daw magkakalapit yung mga bahay nila. Unfortunately, the popularity, the bright lights, and the lifestyle that everybody could only dream of took a toll on the band. While there's a growing tension between the band, a tragedy happened. In 2012, their talent manager Richard Tan died. His death caused a huge impact to the OPM alternative scene because napakaraming banda na under ng management niya. Now that the man who's keeping the band together is gone, the band decided to go their separate ways. The initial statement from the management team was that Islao fired every member of the band. However, they changed it quickly and said that the band decided to part ways. In one of Islao's interview, sinabi niya na yung main reason daw is because yung mga band members ay may kanya-kanyang original bands and it's difficult for them logistically to be still together while nagfo-focus nga yung iba't ibang miyembro sa kani-kanilang mga original bands. So after the announcement, Islao started to find his new members. He Hinire niya si Poldo Cañada bilang lead guitarist. And for you who doesn't know, si Poldo yung gitarista niya sa kanyang bandang Frank back in Cebu. Si Dave Delphi naman on bass was hired when Islao saw him perform at one of the local events. Nakita niya lang daw na nagsusmoke sa labas si Dave and then tinanong niya kung interesado ba to na mag-bass sa banda niyang Franco. And then Vic Guison was referred by Kamikaze's drummer Papa Boards. So with this new lineup with relatively unknown people, how did Franco stay relevant? Personally, I think the reason Franco stayed relevant is because of these two reasons. One, it's Franco's consistency. Not just with their music, but also with the band lineup. Ever since the Supergroup broke up, we still have the same people in the band. People love consistency when it comes to band members. They love to see the same faces performing through the years, and because of that, Franco was able to be consistent with their sound. Although most of it is because of Islao, who writes 70 to 80% of their songs, the fact that you still have the same people that creates music with you, that contributes a lot to their consistency. Although they evolve through the years, they still have that post-grunge and reggae influence to their music, which to me is the core sound of the band Franco. Franco is no longer made up of big personalities that may have been unintentionally burning out each other. People can now appreciate Franco for their music and not because they were a supergroup. Don't get me wrong, these current members are all extremely talented in their own rights. But the fact that they were relatively unknown to the mainstream audience before they joined Franco, that really benefited their music. To me, Franco is still relevant today because people genuinely love their music and not because they are a supergroup. How about you? What do you think? Mas better ba yung Franco nung supergroup sila? Or do you think Franco is better off with his current member? Let me know in the comments. Well, that's it for me today and thank you for watching. If you like these type of videos, please subscribe. It will help my channel a lot. I will see you again next time.